Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla held a press conference before national and international media where he referred to the aggressive foreign policy of the United States government against the island. Our correspondent, Belen De Los Santos, has more details.
This Wednesday morning, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, called on the national and international media with one objective. We're just 1 week away from another voting at the UN General Assembly on the resolution that calls for the lifting of the economic blockade on Cuba, a voting that happens year after year with an overwhelming majority in support of Cuba. In this context, Cuba is denouncing a U.S. campaign that is trying to pressure other states to change their vote.
He has a fraudulent approach that on one side they try to prove, and it's one of the subtitles, the Cuban regime does not deserve your support. It's directed to governments that always have voted for decades, some with over 30 years, in favor of the elimination of the blockade, of the re-establishment of international law, the end of a crime, of genocide, in the framework of the corresponding convention, and that as an overwhelming majority of the member states of the United Nations, that reflect also the thinking and position overwhelmingly in a majority of U.S. citizens that are the ones paying the emissaries, the U.S. diplomats that are involved in this management, that also reflect the majority opinion of Cubans that live in the United States, all of which at the same time are victims of this aggression policy and hostilities and blockade.
In this way, Cuba is presenting the evidence and the information of this campaign in which the United States, through 2 letters directed at governments from Europe and Latin America, is trying to change their vote, veiling threats of possible consequences if they do not follow the U.S. interests. This is just a pressure campaign, they say.
It does not feel the need to argue its seriousness with the government. They believe that the brutal pressure and threats are more than enough. I read the document and I realized that they don't really want to convince anyone. They only want to intimidate and pressure. It is not the blockade the cause of issues of problems of the Cuban economy. I have proven with data, and I'm willing to do so again. We are willing to debate on this issue. Experts are also willing to do this, Cuban experts in our economy, to show that the blockade is the main cause of the issues of our economy and the main obstacle for our development.
Among the evidence presented, not only were the 2 letters sent by the United States, but also a media campaign of disinformation trying to link Cuba with different schemes around the world that have no evidence. For example, media campaigns that have tried to link Cuba to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, or also to drug trafficking in the region. Just schemes that are completely baseless but are dangerous, the Cuban minister has said, because we've seen the United States at this moment use these narratives, these false narratives, in order to justify, for example, military aggressions in the Caribbean. That is what is happening at this moment. But Cuba is confident that another vote is coming, and another vote will be of an overwhelming majority in order to lift the blockade. Cuba is saying that the United States is just trying to shift the conversation against and away from the actual topic. And the actual topic is the constant aggression that the U.S. continues to maintain year after year with the blockade against the Cuban people.